I consider myself to be a pretty even-keeled individual, you know? All things considered, I'm not the best person in the world. I'm not the worst person in the world, but I'm pretty decent. You know, I stay in my own little lane. I stay in my own little corner. Sometimes people try to wiggle into my corner, and I'm like, yo, get out, son. And then sometimes I venture out of my corner and start a little bit of trouble. But considering how many people and how many things and entities I genuinely am not a fan of within this sphere of what I do within video games, I'm a very cordial person. I'll say hello, I'll shake your hand, I won't break bread with you, but I'll be nice. You know, I'll be cordial. It is what it is. It's all good. But today, we got to drop some of the cordialness just a little bit. Just a little bit, because this has been something that I've talked about it before. I know I've talked about it before, but video game analysts. What the hell is a video game analyst? Honestly speaking, what is an analyst of video games? Because to me, an analyst of video games would be somebody who looks at historical data, who looks at current data, who looks at market trends, and then talks about those things. Yes, numbers can be, slightly misconstrued. The number itself is always going to be indicative of what it is, but there could have been a different way to get to that point in order to have that number. I understand that. That's where the analytical stuff comes into play. But video game analysts seem to pop up like left and right. And it's like, what does this job entail? How did you get this job? Where did this moniker come from? Is it self-appointed? Did you go to school for this? I don't understand it. You have jackasses like Michael Pachter still walking around here, talking, and people listening to him. And that's probably the biggest problem, is video game analysts all of a sudden get put up on this higher pedestal than the average person. And I don't understand why. I honestly do not understand why. Wow, you look at video game stuff all day, so do millions of other people on the same platform. But today I want to highlight two stories going on around the Nintendo Switch and video game analysts analyzing something with this, and just try and make sense of this. I'm going to try to make sense of this. The first story isn't nearly as egregious as the second story. The second story makes me want to jump out of a second story window. The first story isn't necessarily as egregious, and honestly, I kind of like the person who wrote the story. I kind of like the person who's talking about it. This is coming to us from Matt Piscatella, who of course does the NPD stuff. I think he does good work. That is actual analysis, talking about numbers and data and stuff like that. And this may have just been a throwaway comment, but I do want to talk about the implications of the comment itself and why things like this just kind of irk me. So he was doing an interview with Games Radar, and he basically was talking about the hype and build-up around the Switch 2 and said the following thing. It's been so long since we've had a new console hardware platform. It's been years. It's been a long time. And people are looking for things to kind of get their mind off of what's going on elsewhere. You can even see it online. Just the desire people have to have something to be excited about. I don't know, maybe it's just my own perspective, but I see this as palpable desperation, in a sense, of wanting to find something to bring joy. And a lot of people are locking onto this, which, good for them. So, okay, in and of itself, that statement isn't necessarily incorrect. People play video games to escape the real world. That has always been kind of the point of video games. Do I think it is being heightened as what's being alluded to throughout this article because of real world situations and the world in and of itself? Not really, because the last time we had a console launch was during the middle of COVID, when you couldn't leave your house and the world was completely shut down and nobody knew what the world was going to be like from day to day. At least you can leave your house and do stuff now. I don't like how it's being framed. And, this is how a lot of websites framed it, because people are looking for happiness because of real world stuff. And it's like, happiness comes from within. Somebody may have been a multimillionaire 5 years ago and now they're homeless. So that person's probably not going to be as happy as they were 5 years ago. On the flip side, a homeless person 5 years ago could be a multimillionaire right now. So the world looks different to them. I don't necessarily hate this. What I don't like about it is the fact that this is being treated as if some sort of news. Like, Analysts says that video games make people happy and the Switch 2 has hype. because people want to take their mind off something. That's the whole point of video games, an escape. It's always been that way. It always will be that way. So how is this groundbreaking news from the analyst perspective? But like I said, this story is okay. I can find some nuggets of decent information from it. I can understand that, Matt himself, although he did block me on Twitter, I never talked to the guy before, but, he was probably part of the cabal. That's a story for another day. I can understand this in the context of saying it in an interview and then, not trying to put it out there as actual news and then other places run with it as news because it makes for a snazzy headline. Okay, whatever. This second story, though, has to be the most ridiculous thing in the world. And this is where I get into the issue, the real issue, with video game analysts and things being reported. Analyst believes Nintendo will gradually drop Switch 2 price. Oh boy. Even though yesterday we literally talked about the fact that Nintendo could be potentially exploring raising the price. As it stands now, the Switch 2 will cost you $450 or $500 for the bundle, blah, blah, blah. But this analyst, pricing studio CEO Yoshihiro Takahashi, was asked about the Switch 2, and he believes that Nintendo will slowly but surely drop the price of the platform in order to capture a larger audience. He thinks Nintendo is taking the approach of a premium price at launch because diehard fans will jump in at any cost, but Nintendo will eventually lower the price in order to reach the mass market. Takahashi has also stated that going with the current pricing scheme for Switch 2 gives off the vibe that this is a premium product when compared to the original Switch. This allows the company to maximize profit at the hardware's launch and then rejigger, that's a questionable word, the situation down the line. What kind of analysis is this? Based on... Okay, let's bring it back to me because now I'm getting annoyed. I put the keyboard down for this. What are we basing this analysis on? Show me data. Show me analytical data, historical data, buying trend data to support your hypothesis that you are putting out there as a video game analyst, as an analyst firm, as an electronic analyst firm, because there is absolutely, positively no data within the past nearly 10 years that will agree with what you just said. And I could prove that in one simple sentence. What is the price of the Nintendo Switch currently? What is the price of it? It's still $300. The OLED is still $350. Yes, sometimes there's little bundles. Sometimes there's the Switch Lite or the Switch OLED or the Lite. Yeah, the Lite system. Sometimes that goes a little bit lower, and that's a lower price SKU. But where is your data that they're gradually going to drop the price of the system? Based on what? Based on what? And this is your job. You are the CEO of this analyst company. It said it right there in the information that you're a CEO. Who's hiring you? Who is looking to you for analysis? The original Nintendo Switch has not budged in price, and we are less than a month away from the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. And honestly, there really hasn't been much sort of inclination that the price of the system will go down. Now, Nintendo will continue to support the system because they said, hey, basically, if you can't afford the Switch 2, well, that's okay. We still have the Switch 1 for you, pal. You could pick up one of these. So it would make sense that the system would go down in price, but the system has been out for 8 years. Came out in 2017. We're in 2025. And it never budged in price. Never went down. Even last year, when sales were down 25% on hardware, according to Nintendo themselves, they never budged on the price. But you think that this is Nintendo's attempt at basically exploiting their audience. And, that's not a far-fetched thing to think. But if you were to look at anything in this bubble, anything from these video game companies, anything about what the video game industry is feeling right now, you would not say such a thing. But you said it. You stood on business. And this is supposed to be someone I'm supposed to listen to. This is someone who has more knowledge about video games than you or I. This person is the CEO this has to be a one-man operation at this point in time. You know what? From now on, I'm a video game analyst. So every time I say something, whether it's right or wrong, because goddamn, if any analyst were ever to take accountability for anything, and that's not even just in video games, that's in pretty much every facet where there are analysts, such as sports analysts and stuff like that. Suck a fat one. Knicks are up 2-0 over the Celtics right now. I should be an analyst too, because I feel like I'm a little bit more in touch than some of these other things are. And I feel like every crazy thing that I say on this channel should be now spoken as news, should be spoken as something that is coming from a place that matters, coming from a place that is important, coming from a place of higher importance than the average common consumer that talks about things. But I would never do that. That would be ridiculous. Because I am just an average common consumer. I just look at things from a different lens than a lot of these people do. I talk about things that maybe other people won't talk about. I see things that maybe other people don't see, or maybe sometimes other people see things that I don't see. And that's what makes this whole thing. That's what makes, independent journalism, I guess you would call it, even though I don't really consider myself a journalist. I'm just an idiot with a camera and a microphone and a little bit of editing software. I think that's what makes everything so beautiful, because it's an even playing field. And yes, other people might have more subscribers than me. Other people might have less subscribers than me. But everyone's voice can be held at the same weight. If somebody has 200 million subscribers or somebody has 1 million or one subscriber, in my opinion, their voices still hold the same amount of weight. So I don't know, man. It's just, I don't understand why this is a thing. I don't understand why this is needed. You want to analyze numbers. You want to look at numbers and stuff like that. I think the NPD stuff that Matt Piscatella does is very well done. And I don't even necessarily think that Matt said that with the intention of it becoming a news story. But that's kind of what goes with the territory of a video game analyst. For some reason, all these video game websites and all these people who, do daily news in terms of writing and stuff like that, we take these analysts as if they are a higher species than us. They know so much more than the average person does. And I used to think that way too. I used to think that video game analysts meant something when I first got my writing chops in and I was doing articles and stuff like that. But quickly over time, I learned they really don't. And I think this is beautiful proof of that. So what do you think of all of this? Is this an overreaction on my part? And it could be. Like, once again, I'm never going to say that I'm right and you're wrong. I just think it's so weird. I think it's so weird, the pedestal that these individuals are put up on. And I don't really get it. But maybe you can explain it to me. So let me know in the comments section down below. How do you feel about these video game analysts? Who are some of your favorite? Who are some that you hate? I'm sure more people will unfollow me on social media now. I just want to be friends with you. No, I'm just kidding. I got too many friends. Friends list is full. The friends list is full. As always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.